everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I will be your presenter here for the next 20 minutes. Today we are going to be talking about handling inactive people. So whenever someone leaves the church, kind of that process that you need to go through to correctly remove them from your database. And then we're also going to talk about some different cleanup tips. So I have we only have 20 minutes today, so I only have so much time to show you the cleanup, but I also want to take you to the website, and I want to show you some different previously recorded webinars that I think would be really helpful with getting your database kind of tidied up. We've had customers that have been with us for 25, 30 years, and if that's the case, and you probably have some data in there that's pretty dated, and I really want to walk you through how to clean that up as well. Okay, there are a bunch of people registered for today, which is great. So a lot of people who are in here looking for some good information. That tells me too I need to keep scheduling events like this because it seems like you guys want them, so that's great. But as far as being able to ask questions and really interact, it's going to be a little harder today because there are so many of you. Josh is in here with me today, so if you have a question, feel free to type that in. If it's really, really specific or it's completely off topic, we're just not going to be able to get to it today due to the amount of people in here. But we still want to help you, so call our support line, send us an email to support@churchwindows.com, and then we can get you an answer that way if for some reason we don't have an answer for you today. Okay, so just expand that questions toolbar on your GoToWebinar screen, and you're able to type a question in there. Everybody's muted, but feel free to type a question in there, and I can either read it out loud after the webinar, or Josh will get you an answer. If you want to ask it while I'm presenting, feel free to do that as well. Okay, like all of our other webinars, I am recording this. I will get it cleaned up and put it on the website by the end of the day today. You can rewatch it, share it with someone else you think might find this information beneficial. All right, so let's get started here. As you can see on the screen now, the current version of Church Windows is 23.21.2. If you have a version that is older than that, feel free to head out to our website to get updated, or you can always call our support line and we can get you the link that way if need be. All right, let's go ahead and open up membership. So I have two examples of people that are leaving the church that I want to go over. So one would be if the whole family leaves, say like the whole family is moving away. And then the other example would be if a spouse passes away. Those seem to be the two most common support calls that I deal with. So I do want to go over those examples. But before we go over them, I want to kind of give you an overview of this screen and the process that you need to go through, and then we'll do the examples. All right, so I opened up membership and I went right into people. So when people leave the church, for whatever reason it might be, whether they've moved away, passed away, changed denominations, just changed churches, whatever it might be, it's important that you track that in Church Windows, okay? There's kind of two options. You can delete people, and then you can also make people inactive. All right, so the delete option is only available for those people who haven't given anything in donations. All right, so if you don't use our donations module, you just use membership, you do have the ability to delete people. All right, and that option is right here up at the top, this delete individual button. I would use a word of caution with that though. If you have information that you want to keep a record of, so if you have someone that was at your church and you want to keep a record of them, it's going to be best to use this inactive feature. It's right down here. It's a checkbox which has two fields next to it. Inactive, if you check that box, it is going to then turn this person red, so their name, their text will show up in red, and it's also going to hide them from reports. All right, so by default, those people are going to be removed from your different reports, from entering attendance, entering donations, things like that. Now on each screen, you can specify that you do want to actually see those inactive people, but by default, they're going to be removed, okay? You also have a checkbox up here next to your person lookup to either show inactive people or not. So if we look through this list, you're going to see some people here in red. So they're still going to be in red, but you will see them. Now, if we check, because we don't want to see inactive people, we uncheck that box, the person lookup, then you're only going to see people who aren't checked inactive, okay? Something else I want to talk about as well, the inactive checkbox and the inactive status code are two very different things, okay? So if you have a status code in here actually called inactive, that is not going to function the same way as this checkbox for inactive, okay? Two different things. If someone's actually leaving the church, you want to check this box, and that's what hides their record moving forward. If you just give them a status code of inactive, that doesn't actually remove them, that just changes their status. So some denominations I talk to, people have to be, quote, inactive before they can take them off their record or their rolls. If that's the case, then you would have to change the status code first, let the allotted amount of time go by where they're not active in the church, and then you can come back in here and actually remove them by checking the inactive box. Okay? Hopefully I made that clear. Let's move on here. Okay, so let's say when someone leaves, I'm going to come over here, just we'll use Nina for an example. You check their inactive box, and if they have a giver number, which we can see right here on Nina, Nina does have a giver number 34, it's automatically going to pop up with this end giver number screen. So at this point, you have the ability to specify if you want to end her number. Some people choose to end the giver number when they leave, so we could do it for today's date, or you could do it throughout the end of the year. Keep in mind, taking off a giver number does not prohibit you or take away your ability to print a donation statement. All right? Giving is attached to the name. So you can end a number whenever you want. You could do it for today's date. You could do it for the end of the year. If you want to say no here, you can, and then you can go back and remove the giver number off her later. Any option is fine. I would just suggest whichever you choose, pick it and stick with it, okay? So stay consistent with when you choose to end the giver number. For today's example, I'm just going to do the end of the year, okay? That way her donation statement, when it prints, will still have her giver number on it because it's good through the end of the year, okay? Now you can see she's been made inactive, all right? Now let me close out of here. I want to show you something else. Let's go back into people, and I want to walk you through a couple other things that you need to consider when you're making someone inactive. So let's talk about these different individual fields you have over here. Individual fields are customizable. So some of the fields that I'm talking about you may not track, you may not have. That's okay. I'm just going by the default fields that come in the database. So a couple of things that may need to change when you make someone inactive. So different fields to think about. Your family relation field, okay? So here's this field here. If you have someone who's in a family and they pass away, you might need to consider changing the other family's family relation field. So for example, let me check show inactive. You can see William here passed away. So on Jen's record, her family relation was updated to say widowed or widower. All right. Directory report order now says primary on the person who's still living in the household. Their mailing label, this needs to be considered as well. If the mailing label says William and Jen Arnold and William's passed away, you need to update that mailing label to just reflect the living spouse's name. Also, think about the giver number, which I just showed you in our last example. Do you need to change the giver number? If they don't have a giver number, obviously that's not something you need to worry about. Reordering the family. We can see now William is down here at the bottom. If you right-click a record, you can tell it to move up or move down in the list. So you might want to reorder this so the person who's been made inactive is down at the bottom. Another field to consider is also the marital status. Down here, you may want to update this after someone has passed away as well. All right, so those are just a couple fields for you to consider when you go in and change something. All right, now let's talk about status code again. You have the ability to change the status code to inactive if that's a code you have available. Now, something I would caution you on, or something to consider. If you change someone's status code, say William was an active member. If you go in, say he passed away, and you go in and you change his status code to inactive, you will no longer be able to run a report of everybody who passed away that had an active status. Right, so it's something to consider of leaving that status code as is and not changing it. I'm not telling you you can't, but if you ever want to run a report of everybody who passed away in 2009, like William did, that was an active member, by changing the status, you're not going to be able to get that information. You can still get a report of everybody that passed away in 2009, but you won't be able to focus in on their specific status code. Maybe that's not something you ever need to do for a report, but it is something to consider when thinking about changing the status code. Okay, let's move to our actual examples here. I'm going to go here to the Bernard family. We'll do them first. So there's 4 people in the Bernard family, and let's say they are moving. All right, we don't know if they're transferring to a new church. We don't know if they're switching denominations. All we know is that they're leaving the area. Okay, so we have this really slick button over here that says Make Family Inactive. So if everybody in the household is leaving for the same reason on the same date, then you can use this Make Family Inactive button. It's going to give the same information to all of the people that make up the household. So for this family, for 4 different people. This window is going to pop up. It's going to say Make Whole Family Inactive. And then from here, you can specify the reason. You don't have to put in a reason of termination. You can simply check their inactive box. For me personally, I like to put the reason in. I think long term, when running reports, it's going to be a good option. It's only another click or 2 to get that information in there. Okay, so inactive reason, if we hit the down arrow, you are going to see all of the different reasons that you currently have available. If you find one of these reasons doesn't apply to this family, or you want to create a new one, you can do that by simply hitting this little plus or minus pencil button, which is right here, and then you can add new codes up here at the top, and then they will be available for everybody that you are making inactive. But for them, we have a code that works. It's left area, so we're going to select that. Now, this is your inactive reason. We filled that in. Now you have an inactive date. It's always going to default to today's date. You can leave it on today's date, or if you have a specific date that you know they left, you could put that in, but you can just leave it as is if you want. And then you also have the option to end giver number. So as you can see, Evan here has giver number 22. We can end that number, and let's end it for the end of the year. You don't have to check that box. You want to leave them with a number, you can. But again, for consistency's sake, I would recommend figuring out a process of when someone leaves. Do you end the number right away, or do you wait till the end of the year? That way you stay consistent and your data stays consistent, okay? So I'm going to do the last day of the year, and I'm going to say okay. And it's going to make this entire family inactive. So we can see now everybody's in red. And over here to the right, they're all going to have an active check. They're all going to have left the area, and they're all going to have the same date. Now you can always come back and tweak the individuals if you need to, change their specific reason or date. But this is a nice way with just a couple clicks to make everyone in the family inactive. All right, so that's the first example. Second example I want to show you is what happens when someone passes away within a couple. This is a really common support call that we get. So for this example, we're going to go with Bill and Donna Bell. All right, let's say Bill has passed away. Now, something I want to point out, if you use the donations module, you have to think about their giving, okay? So let's look at Bill. Bill has number 64, you can see right here. We choose Donna. Donna also has number 64. That tells me they are a giving unit. They give together because they both have the same number. So this is going to make removing one of them really easy because the software already sees them as one unit. Okay, so we don't have any transferring, any moving of pledges, any additional steps we have to do in donations, we don't have to worry about because they already give together. Now, if you have couples who don't give together, then you're going to have some additional steps over in donations to move things over to the living spouse. My opinion on this, if you have a couple, they want one donation statement, make sure they give together by them both being checked gives with family, okay? All right, so let's get started. Let's say Bill's passed away. I'm going to choose Bill so his record shows over here on the right, and I'm going to check his inactive box. Now, as soon as I check his inactive box, because he's part of a family, it's going to pull up this additional screen. This is kind of like a helpful wizard to make sure I verify and go through everything that I wanted to change when someone passes away. So, optional fields for Bill Bell. Add inactive reason. I'm going to hit my down arrow. I'm going to choose death. Again, if one of your codes doesn't apply, hit the pencil. Inactive date. I'm actually going to put his date of death in there. 1/31/2022. Now change the mailing label. So now that it's just Donna, we need to get rid of William or Bill's name. Leave it on the living spouse's name, Mrs. Donna Bell. Change family relation. Now remember, we're still under Bill, okay? So you can hit the down arrow. You can put deceased in there. And now here's your optional status change. For me, my procedure that I like to follow is that I don't want to change their status because I want to see my active members that passed away in a particular year. So I'm not going to change this. Right below this, I have a remove, include on directory, and report order, and set Donna Bell's directory report order to 1, which is primary. This is huge. This is really important. If you leave this checked, that saves you the step of having to go back and add Donna as primary because now she's the only living person in the household. The software is going to do that for you if you leave this box checked. So I'm going to leave it checked. And now I have optional field changes for Donna Bell. Change family relation. I'm going to put widowed or widower. And then you can also change her marital status. I'm going to do the same. Widow, widower. Again, you have pencils here, so you can adjust these codes to whatever your church needs to track. And that's also going to say here, also other changes to consider, their family or individual pictures, and maybe update or remove any groups and classes for Bill Bell. At this point, you can say OK, and it's going to update the record. Here's our new mailing label, and then there's the new codes and things that we filled out in the wizard now updated here. Last thing I like to do, just because I'm a little OCD about things, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put Donna first. So I'm going to highlight Donna, right-click, move up, and because Donna is the only active person in this family, I want her first. All right? So that is the procedure you would follow with handling a couple when one of them passes away. Okay? And I know I said this a couple times, but having a procedure is really important for how you handle this and what fields you update. So figure out the procedure that works best for you. That way you can stay consistent with that throughout the years or as this database or software changes hands as you have new church staff. Make sure you have a procedure for how you handle these families that become inactive or these people. All right, so that's what I wanted to go over specifically for handling inactive people. I do have some other tips that I want to show you for cleaning up. Making people inactive is really a great way to keep your database tidy. Now, you are going to have times where people who you make inactive come back. If that's the case, all you have to do is uncheck their inactive box right here, and that's going to bring that record right back and take it back from the red text to the black text. Okay? But again, making people inactive, deleting people who don't have giving that maybe came once and never came back, that's really a great way to keep your database tidy. Now, some other features I want to show you are on our website. If you go out to churchwindows.com, go to our resource center right here, and then I want you to search two different things. First is going to be search duplicate. We have done so many webinars on handling duplicate records. We have one out here for version 22 and newer, and then we have one out here for 21 and older. Please make sure you look at these. These are so helpful for cleaning up duplicates. It can be a bit of a time-consuming process, but once you do a couple, get them cleaned out, your reports, your database is going to be so much better. So we have a webinar I did from last year here to watch, or there's a document. The document has a lot of great screenshots. I would definitely recommend following that step by step. Gives you a great example. Another thing I want to show you, a tool that I think a lot of people don't utilize in our database, is the membership grid. So let me show you that real quick here in membership. If you hit find, and then you can find on a certain criteria. I'm not going to put a criteria in because I want to see everybody. This is going to take me to our grid. You can make changes to multiple people rather quickly here utilizing the grid. Okay, you just click in the box and then you can make your change. This is a really, really good tool for cleaning up your database rather quickly from having to go from individual record to individual record. I don't have time to go into detail today, but I want you to watch this webinar that I did working in the grid, version 20 and newer. This is a huge tool to teach you how to use that membership find grid, how to manipulate it, how to get the columns you need to see. You can do mass edits in there. You can go line by line and update people. You can select multiple people. The grid is a really great tool to help you with your cleanup efforts. So make sure you check out this too. On the Resource Center, just search grid. That's all I did, and that took me right to that working in the grid webinar. Okay, so check out the duplicates webinar and then also the grid webinar. Those are going to give you some great tools for cleanup. All right, that is everything I wanted to go over with you today.